welcome to this episode of Kapow with Pitu. Happy Halloween from Alice and her teacup, the White Rabbit, Millie Willy, who is the Queen of Hearts, and Professor Minerva McGonagall, also known as Minu Minu the Cat. For those of you who don't know, Halloween is my absolute favorite festival ever. Like, I vastly prefer it to any other festival, including Indian festivals like Diwali and Holi and Ganpati and all of that. I have always loved Halloween because it has to do with ghouls and ghosts and spooky things and creepy crawlies, and it's a great opportunity for people to dress up and look as weird as possible, especially if you live in or near a major city like New York. It's a lot of fun because people really go all out. Yesterday we were actually at the Halloween, the Greenwich Village Halloween parade, and it was amazing. There was like Kada Bandobast, and there was like something like 10,000 people come every year for the parade, and that's just the people who march in the parade. There's also people who over there who are like, looky-loos, and there's parties in all of the bars and the clubs. It's amazing. I had a really good time, and it's actually also why my voice is hoarse right now. I feel like Halloween is such a great opportunity for people to be as weird as possible, and I feel like when I was a kid, I was always that incredibly weird kid that was attracted to anything that was like spooky, but I was never encouraged to be spooky at all. I was always encouraged to be sort of the good girl, but the joke was on my parents because I was never a good girl. In fact, as a child, my absolute favorite film of all time was Khoon Bhari Maang. My favorite scene in Khoon Bhari Maang was where Rakesh Roshan takes Rekha out on a boat, like at some river or lake or whatever. And of course the lake is like infested with crocodiles. She has no idea. And in the money shot moment of that film, he basically pushes her into the lake, and there's all these crocodiles there. And of course they all like jump on her, and it's like jaws snapping and her screaming and lots of like things flying across the screen. I mean, like high-tech Bollywood stuff from back in the 80s, and I used to love that scene. I mean, I loved the entire movie. It was like this revenge saga, this vendetta movie and everything. It was like really amazing. And what I used to do was, Minu, stop eating my dress. I used to actually watch the entire film, get to that stage, and then after the crocodile scene was over, I would rewind it and watch it over and over and over again. And my parents were absolutely livid. My mother was like, why can't you be like other people's kids? Like, other people's children watch, they watch cartoons, they watch like cute movies, they watch like, bachcho ke movies. In fact, my best friend, Shweta, used to be obsessed with the movie Masoom, the one that had Jugal Hansraj and Urmila Matondkar, and she used to love the song Lakdi Ki Kathi. Meanwhile, I am in my room going and my mother was like, why can't you be like more like Shweta, watch Masoom, watch movies like that. And I was like, nahi, bilkul nahi. And it got to the point where it had really started to have an impact on me. Like, we lived in Nigeria, we lived right across from the beach. Like, from our apartment balcony, you could actually see the ocean, and we used to go to the beach a lot. And it had started affecting me to the point that even though I knew how to swim and I was a complete water baby, I had started developing a little bit of a phobia of water bodies. So my mother would take me to the beach, and I would be like, I don't think I should get into the water because So I would be like, no, it's okay, I will stay on the sand, I don't want to get into the water. So I would be in my swimming costume, and I would like refuse to enter the water and all, because life is Khoon Bhari Maang, of course, and I am Rekha. So I would refuse to get into the water. And I had also started getting nightmares at one point. I think my mother was really frustrated because it was like the third night in a row that I had woken her up at 3 a.m. crying and not wanting to go back to sleep in my own bed and insisting on sleeping in my parents' room. So unbeknownst to me, one day, what my parents did, and I've never forgiven them for this, I came home from school, I did my homework, I took a nap, then I got up and I was like, I'm just going to my room for a bit, I'll play with my kitten or something. And my mother was like, okay. And I went into my room and I put the Khoon Bhari Maang cassette in the VHS player, and I was I was like, wanting to fast forward to that scene, but it had become black and white. And there was Dilip Kumar singing some sad song, and I was like, what just happened? And I checked the title, and it was Khoon Bhari Maang only. That's when I realized that my sneaky parents had taped over my Khoon Bhari Maang cassette, and they had put some like VP black and white Dilip Kumar movie where he's singing about his heart being broken. And I was like, how could you do this to me? How could you do this to your only child? Like, why would you do this to your only child? I don't think the crocodile scene ever traumatized me the way that my parents my parents taping over the movie traumatized me, because I was an 80s kid. We did not have Google and YouTube or anything like that where I could just go and watch my scene, to whenever I wanted. So that was a very sad moment in my life. I've still not forgiven my parents for it. And even as an adult, I've always liked the creepy films. I've seen every single Ramsey movie you can think of. I've watched all the shitty horror that comes out of Bollywood, the Raz and 1920 and films like that, none of which made much of an impact on me beyond Bipasha Basu and Dino Muria's horrendous acting and those songs. What is that song from Raz? Ye sheher hai aman ka. It's so bad. Like, talk about horror. That is some horror choreography and dancing right there. So I remember there was a point where my mother was saying to me, and this is like when I had become an adult, by the way. So the tanas about my weird taste have never stopped. My mother was like, I don't understand why you don't like Bajatya movies. You always say Bajatya movies. Why don't you like Hum Aapke Hain Kaun and movies like that? Like, clearly there must be something good in that movie that has become such a blockbuster. For the record, she doesn't like those movies either, because she thinks they're very like diabetes inducing and saccharine sweet. But she's like, why do you watch horror? And I was like, listen, the only way I would watch a Bajatya movie, especially something like Hum Aapke Hain Kaun, is if someone made like a horror version of it. Like if Madhuri Dixit played a zombie and Renuka Shahani played a vampire and Salman Khan played a werewolf and Tuffy was actually like some shape-shifting goblin. Like aisa ho to main dekhungi. Of course there is one person in that cast who does not have to become a monster because he is already a monster, and of course I'm talking about Alok Nath. We all know what a horrible person he is. But if it was like Hum Aapke Hain Maut or Hum Aapke Hain Khuni or Hum Aapki Hain Diane, if it was something like that, I would watch it. In fact, one of my biggest dreams is that the house of the Bajatyas should have like a strategic alliance with the house of the Ramsays, and they should come up with a movie together. Like instead of Khuni Panja, it should be like Khuni Mangal Sutra or Raat ke Sannate mein Shehnai. Something like that. Like that would be great, and that is totally something I would watch, and I would even rewind it and fast forward it and rewind and fast forward to watch it. So if you love Halloween, if you love spooky stuff, if you're a weirdo, if you have bizarre taste in life, if you like horror films, tell me in your comments which movie you like, what Halloween means to you, or tell me what Halloween costume you wore. Send me a picture. Let's talk about spooky shit, and let's try not to be syrupy and saccharine, and let's try to embrace our weirdness. So this has been this episode of Kapow with Pitu, and I will see you next week.